Well, thank you very much for joining me in this video. I want to talk to you today about warranties that are inadvertently added to agreements of purchase and sale. You know, a lot of what I talk about in our videos comes from interactions that I've had with the agents, situations that cropped up. And this past week, had an agent call me, said that they received an offer on a particular listing that they had, but in the offer there was a schedule referenced, and the schedule was a copy of the listing. So the agent representing the buyer had attached a copy of the listing to the agreement of purchase and sale and labeled it as a schedule. The agent said to me, "What should I do?" I said, "You should cross out that reference to the schedule and throw out the copy of the listing." Very important, and I want to talk to you about why I say that. But first of all, buyers and sellers get into problem over discussions, oral discussions, and buyers love to quote what sellers have said. Well, he said he was going to leave the drapes. He told me that he was going to leave the lawnmower. He said that everything was in good working order. He said he'd never had a problem with, and on and on and on, all kinds of statements that they want to rely on. And sometimes buyers specifically forego having a building inspection because the courts hold that if you have a building inspection, you've taken some of the responsibility off the shoulders of the seller and you've assumed them yourself by making your own investigation. So you'll see sometimes an agreement of purchase and sale, the buyer states in the agreement, the buyer has been offered the opportunity of having a building inspection and he specifically declined. And he's stating that because he wants to set it up in court that he's relying on the seller. And the courts tend to hold a certain amount of emphasis on that if you have a building inspection or if you don't. But there's something I want you to understand that's in the agreement of purchase and sale, and it's very important. And it's under clause 26 in the agreement of purchase and sale, under agreement in writing, and it states, in part, it states, "This agreement, including any schedule attached hereto, shall constitute the entire agreement between the buyer and seller. There is no representation, warranty, collateral agreement, or condition which affects this agreement other than as is expressed herein." What's it saying? It's saying the listing can't be relied on if it isn't referenced in the agreement of purchase and sale. And we get that from time to time. For example, it may say in the listing, appliances are included, or it may say, for example, a dishwasher is included. But they don't reference on the agreement of purchase and sale. The buyer closes the transaction, goes into the house, there's no dishwasher. The buyer takes a position, it was promised in the listing, I expect it to be left, it's built in. The seller takes a position, that was being offered based on full price, you didn't pay full price, and you didn't ask for it. You've got a problem. And the problem is that it wasn't referenced on the agreement of purchase and sale. And so sometimes we build in warranties. You know, and I think the classic example is you're buying a property and you're closing in the winter, but there's a pool. And you've got no way of inspecting the property and finding out if the pool works or not. And so you state in there that the seller warrants that the pool is in good operating condition. And then you say this warranty shall survive and not merge on closing. However, it only applies to the condition of the pool at the time of the closing of the transaction. And so we build in a warranty. But my question to you is, why would you want to add a bunch of additional warranties by attaching the listing? There's a lot of things that are in the listing. For example, we might say, as I've already referenced, appliances are included. But they may be included on the offering, but they may have been negotiated out based on price. And if they're not in the agreement of purchase and sale, as we've read in that clause, it's not part of the agreement. But we also put on other things. We put in things like square footage. And I understand square footage is an important ingredient, gives people a relative idea of how large the property is. An agent brought in to me this issue, this past week. He has a property listed, and he showed me the identical property. It's a back split, the identical property as his. His showed 1,000 square feet, and the other one showed 2,000 square feet. Well, how can you have that? What the other agent did, perhaps, was included the third level down, which you shouldn't because it's partly below grade. But how would you include the fourth level to get 2,000 out of 1,000? And certainly when you get into Cape Cods or even into tri-levels, people have a hard time measuring. And you may use an eye guide or something, but that may be interior square footage, not exterior square footage. You may go at builder's plan, all kinds of things, but there's all kinds of liabilities there. And I've seen the courts go either way on this. They've said, did you inspect the property? Yes. Well, you got what you saw. Or they may say, did you buy based on square footage? If you didn't base on frontage foot, on length of the lot, and it was clearly monumented where the fence line was and where the property ended, then the courts often throw it out. And so it's important that these things give us guidelines, but we don't want the added liability of including them in. So I think what you need to be careful of is, for sure, the listing is a guideline, and I'm not using it as an excuse to be flippant about how you take a listing. Be very, very careful that you get your facts right. But don't add it as an appendix to the agreement of purchase and sale where you're warranting those things. If it's important enough to be warranted, put it in the agreement of purchase and sale. Hope that makes sense. Thank you very much for sharing the time. I look forward to talking to you again next week.